Hello and welcome, my beautiful goddess. I am Jess, and I'm so excited to be back here on YouTube. And if you're listening to my podcast, on my podcast, I have had such a beautiful time interviewing this goddess. And I asked her, I was like, how do you want me to introduce you? And she was like, just go with whatever feels right for you. And so to me, she is a manifestation, law of attraction queen. She is a person I've been following on YouTube for so long, and I've been admiring her work and her videos for so long. And when she finally said she's okay with doing an interview, I was like, yes, I manifested that right there. So everything that she speaks about is the truth, because I literally applied it, and here we are. I manifested having her on my podcast. Who do I speak about? It's Leeor Alexandra, and I'm incredibly excited to have her on this podcast. Her YouTube channel is all about manifestation, the law of attraction, about energy, and she does a lot of great videos about shifts in energy and how to work with it and how to use it to our advantage. And she just knows so much. And what I love about her especially is because the things that she talks about, she has experienced in her own personal life. And in this podcast episode, we dive into so many different aspects. We talk about attracting, manifesting the love of your life, manifesting your soulmate. We talk about how to stay in a high vibration when things are not showing up how we want them to. We talk about the menstrual cycle. We talk about how Leeor Alexandra was able to break out of the society norms on how to create a career and to live a life, and how she broke out of it, and how she was able to create a career with YouTube, and how she manifested that as well, staying high vibe and really doing the work. I'm just really, really excited for this episode. I feel like her and me, we had such a great connection, and I can't wait if one day again I'm gonna have her on here. But I can't wait for you to especially listen to this, because I think you will hear what a great connection we both had, and I'm excited for you to listen to all of what she has to share and what she went through as well. And one of her recent beautiful experiences that she had with the, law of attraction, the manifestation, just something that was so close, or is so close to her heart, and how magic happens, and how she knows she's on the right path with her beautiful project that she's working on. I'm not gonna spoil too much because I really want you to listen to it. So without further ado, have a wonderful time listening to this, and I can't wait for you to just enjoy yourself. Here it is. As I said, I've been watching your videos for a while now. So when you replied that you would like to be a guest, I was like, did I just manifest that? Oh my God, thank you.
No, Jessica, you actually did. You actually did manifest it, because I have been, just for the past few years, so busy, and so my energy, I have a specific amount of energy to extend, and it hardly ever is an overflow for me to be able to do extra things. And this week I was like, I can do it. I have this time. Somehow I have this energy. Even though I'm getting my moon, and usually I like to not do anything during this time, I was like, I feel you too. This time, I don't know. I feel like I can do it. I feel talkative. I feel like connecting. So you manifested it. Perfect timing.
I'm actually curious about you getting your moon, because I also work a lot around the menstrual cycle, and I'm all about like syncing with the energy, syncing with you, taking a step back, right? Especially during the luteal phase, when okay, it's coming. What are your practices around the menstrual
Yeah.
cycle?
So I've been super, super lucky. And, in the beginning of this, in the beginning of understanding what's going on with my energy, I'm somebody who experiences chronic fatigue, and it's due to my hormones. And I felt very guilty for a long time, especially since I've been working for myself for 5 years. And I've reached a certain level of freedom now that I can take a 2 hour nap whenever, right? Or I can take a day off or a week off whenever. I don't usually take a week off, but I can, right? And I've had a lot of guilt around this. So I had this process of having to understand that it's not me that's wrong. It's not something that's wrong with me. It's society. And it's not that I'm so lucky and so blessed, which I am, and I am like have this privilege of getting to take time off when the chronic fatigue hits. It's more that it's like I have to work to put systems into place and to hire in a certain way where other women can also have that luxury, because society needs to be restructured. We don't need to change ourselves in order to fit society, right? And so I came to terms with that, and I started to stop feeling so guilty about my need to rest. I just need to rest. And so I restructured um, my work life, which is like I love working, but I don't always have the energy to do it. I restructured it so that I'm basically only really working 2 to 2.5 weeks out of the month. And then I take a week off before my period, and then my moon is usually a couple days to 4 days long. I take that time off, and then right away I'm back into work. But I was able to restructure my lifestyle around that, and I know that not everybody can. And there was a lot of guilt around that originally, but now it's more like a mission. Like, let's teach women there has to be a way that we can find prosperity and jobs that we love or careers that we love, or some way of creating um, wealth in our lives, if that's something that we want to do. Not everybody wants to do that, right? And also prioritize our womanhood and our cycles and how we naturally are supposed to be. We're not supposed to be working 40 hours a week under fluorescent lights, just no time to ourselves, no time for our families. I don't know how women who have, two jobs and children and maybe no partner even, how they do it, but they do it, they manage. And it's the society that's sick. It's not their fault, it's society. I hope that answered
I
it.
know, I love it. You're speaking to my soul because it was very similar for me before, I had my own business. I also worked in a corporate world. So I experienced both. And I knew back then, oh my God, like my cycle was so off. It was so painful. And I remember sitting, at the office under blue light and feeling
Yeah.
like I'm gonna like die because of my pain. And I knew that something was really wrong. And I also think, I'm very lucky because I took the leap. I was like, I no longer want to be
Yeah.
part of this corporate world. I want to have my own freedom like you, and I want to have the space to decide how I'm going to structure my days and traveling like now, right? Which is just so
Uh-huh.
powerful. But I also know that a lot of women are scared because kind of what you said is like the society, the programming that we are under, the beliefs that we all have that it has to be a certain way. And working only 2, 3, 4 hours a day is not enough. Like you have to work a lot
Right.
more to make
Right.
money. So I want to know because you're the queen of manifestation and you're the queen of YouTube. I've been following you for so long and I love everything that you do. Literally obsessed with your content. I want to know what was the step for you that you took where you decided, okay, I don't want to live like what I've seen
Yeah.
probably from parents and society. I want to really be on my own and create the freedom for me. And I think YouTube was your start, right? So how was that for
Yeah.
you? When did you decide that you're gonna do that?
It was a process, and it's always a journey, and I'm always learning how to live my life in more natural and healthy and happier ways. But back then in 2017, I was working at Daily Mail. My goals at the time were to be an e-news anchor woman. I had worked at e-news and TMZ and Daily Mail. I was on air at Power 106 in Los Angeles. I was an intern, but I was on air. And I was in this life of celebrity news, okay? And I was writing for them, and I remember they loved me at Daily Mail because they paid me a set rate as a freelancer, but I worked 2 times as hard as everybody in that office. I produced more content for them than any of their seasoned writers, and I was burning out. And on the same time, while I was there, I was creating content for YouTube. And when I first started making content for YouTube, I started when I was still in college. And people were telling me like it's oversaturated. There's so many YouTubers, but I remember just deciding, and I've always been that way. And some people do have that personality trait, and then some people don't necessarily have that natural to them. But then they can listen to people like us who have taken the leap, and then they can activate that within themselves, right? It doesn't have to be a natural thing for you. But it was very natural for me to be like, no, I'm not going to listen to this. I had people who knew me in real life. I heard the things that they were saying, making fun of me, of the content I was putting out. And I just kept going. I kept grinding. And I was loving what I was doing. I just remember like, this feels good to me. This is creation feels so much better to me than writing 8 articles a day about freaking there's a meme out there, Jessica. There's a meme with one of my articles, and it says like my full name in it. It's hilarious because the stories that they had me write at Daily Mail were so ridiculous that like they should be memed. I had a whole article, and understand that I get these assigned, right? A whole article about, I think it was, I don't remember which actress this was, but about her jumping over a puddle. That was the story. Jessica, that was the story. And somebody memed it, and I saw it years later. I'm like, that's hilarious. This is the funniest thing ever. So one day, as I woke up, I remember, I think it was March, or maybe right before, it was February. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have something to give the world. I want to try this. And if I don't do it now, when else can I do it? Thankfully, I had a support system at the time where I lived at home, and I had savings. I would work 2 jobs since I was 16. So I had some savings. And I remember telling my dad, I took him to dinner, and I just told him, I'm like, Abba, which is how you say dad in Hebrew. It's like, Abba, I have to do this now. I have to go after this, because if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? And thankfully, he's like, I know you have savings, so go and do this. You're not going to make money for a while. You might never make money, but keep doing this. And if you ever need help, I am here. And I know that not everybody has that kind of support system. Thankfully, I never really had to rely on that, because when you do what you're passionate about, the resources are going to come. When you have full belief, full faith in yourself, and no plan B, forget plan B, you're making this happen, and you continuously show up for yourself, and you hold in mind your vision of what you want things to look like. Eventually, reality has to rearrange. Whatever you hold in your mind eventually has to come into the hologram, the holographic projection that is our reality. It's law. There's no other way. And if it's not happening for somebody, it's only not happening because they haven't heard that one thing or had that one perception shift that they still needed to have in order for everything to open up. And it's coming, and it just holding that faith is everything, right? Because when we start letting the doubts in, and when we start thinking, well, maybe it won't happen to me, then you're sending a command into the quantum realm. You're sending that doubt into the quantum realm, and you're choosing that reality. And that's just how it works.
It sounds so simple. I personally think, especially when we're just starting out with this work, it can be one of the hardest things to do, because you're literally going against everything that you know. I know a lot of people, they might be struggling with like really holding that belief, also probably because they had maybe a lot of stuff happen in their life that didn't work out the way they wanted. And maybe they hit one failure after another, even though I don't really believe in it being failure, but like one thing after the other that didn't work out how they wanted. Like, how do you keep the faith when it feels like it's just really hard to make that thing a reality?
Yeah. Okay. So, what I would say to that is you have to consider how many years you've lived on this planet with the subconscious mind programming from society telling you that you will never be enough, you'll never have enough, success looks like this, and making things happen looks like this. You have to work hard. You have to do this and do that and do this. So when you first start with this, you're contending with all those years of programming. And this process, it's a process. You're going to, just like meditation, when you meditate, when you first start, you're not going to have a blank mind right away and just be in bliss right away. You're going to have no thoughts for a second, and then all the thoughts are going to come in, right? But meditation is the practice of even when the thoughts come in, you release the thought and continue back to your breath, continue back to stillness and blankness. Subconscious mind reprogramming and manifestation is exactly the same. You're gonna start trying, things are gonna get thrown at you, and it's gonna feel like it's not working. And then you can say, okay, this doesn't work. And then, just like meditation, okay, this doesn't work. Or you can continue the practice more and more and more until it becomes your reality. It's just like going to the gym. You're not going to see it the first day. Now, I agree with what you said that I don't think that there are failures. I don't think there are rejections. I actually recently answered somebody in my DMs. This morning, I answered her because she said she had come to one of my ceremonies and her goal was to grow her business. And right after the ceremony, she was feeling good, but she received a cease and desist letter for her company. I guess she had to stop doing what she's doing. And she asked me, she said, "Is that bad energy coming to me from the ceremony, or did I not do it right?" That's not a thing. Because energy, the way energy works, it's really positive and negative energy are, in a way, positive energy is more powerful for sure, but they are the same. So if you have a thought and you're feeding it with negative energy, that's not going to make it not come. It's going to make it still happen, right? So whether it's negative or positive energy that you're receiving, whatever it is, it's still feeding that thought form. So what I explained to her is, first of all, in my personal experience, all the biggest failures, rejections, and embarrassing, horrible moments in my life were always preceding the moments where I leveled up, where I transcended, and where I reached what I've been manifesting. I had to go through some sort of rejection as a redirection. For example, with e-news, I was very close to making it to being on air. And then I made a very big mistake and I was rejected in a very big way, okay? That rejection was crushing to me, and I had manifested this, what I thought I wanted for years, right? And suddenly it fell through. I immediately after that started making YouTube videos. Now, where I am in my career, I look back and I'm just like, I can't believe what I wanted to do was talk about celebrities on air on a failing network where, by the way, the studio that I would have worked at, it's a very sad story, but about 10 to 12 women have gotten brain cancer working there. So redirection, and I hope that they're all fine. I don't really know. I don't have any updates on that. I ran into one of my coworkers the other day and she was telling me. That was a rejection, a painful rejection that led me onto my path. And then I have other moments where I was working really hard on this one project and then one email came through and ruined everything and I was crushed, redirected to doing something completely different, something that ended up making me six figures rather than I don't know what the other project would have been, right? You have to have faith that even when things are bad, you just have to hold the faith that your challenges, it's your higher self, or what I call the deep self, guiding you into the correct timeline. It knows more than you. God, the creator, source, all that is, knows a lot better than we do where we actually want to end up. And so when you think about, like, let's say for e-news, what did I want? What did I actually want when you reduce it down? I wanted success. I wanted accolade. I wanted to be loved, right? I wanted freedom. And I wanted to be able to be myself, right? So I would have been able to be myself as an anchor woman. But what I ended up getting is all of that, but in a much bigger way because I held the faith. So even when we are rejected, it is very important to hold the belief that this rejection is happening for you and not to you. Because that's on the other side of that is exactly where you are meant to be. I really had this, it's so funny that we're talking about this right now because I had such a potent understanding right now that in many aspects of my life, right before I did something huge and miraculous, I was first rejected, and it's always a redirection.
Oh, that is so speaking to me right now, just because I feel like I'm going through a transition right now. That's why I was asking that question, because I'm like, for 2 years, everything has been working out just perfectly the way that I imagined. And then I had this dip, and I feel like it's been in this dip for a while now, where then I know my subconscious is coming to the surface and all of the self-doubt is coming up. And it's like, maybe I'm not good enough anymore. Maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe just wasn't meant for me in the first place. And here I am in Curacao being like, there's so much abundance here, the sea, you know, just so much beautiful stuff, while my subconscious is constantly redirecting me into like, no, you're not enough, you don't deserve this because
Oh,
you don't have the success, right? And so I feel like finding that balance between the belief as well as where we want to go. And in a weird way, I have the faith that it's gonna happen, but then there's also the creeping thoughts that come up once in a while and asking me in a way like, are you really sure? Like, do you think this is gonna happen? Already going like for myself, the worst case scenario of like, oh my God, I'm gonna land on the street. I'm not gonna have money. I'm not gonna have food, which is so like
oh
irrational.
God.
It's not gonna happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to know if you have anything to add to that, because I
Mm-hmm.
like to be
Mm-hmm.
super like open and vulnerable in my podcast. Like I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to connect with people. And so that's why I'm sharing this with you as well. And I would love to see what you have to say to that.
Perfect timing for me to share this story. And okay, first of all, humans are skewed negatively. We're programmed to believe it's a lot easier to believe that everything, okay, this reality is everything's balanced, everything's equal, everything's neutral, okay? But society and the programming of mankind makes us believe it is much more likely, statistically, for something bad to happen. That's a belief system. We have just, it's all neutral. We have just as much statistical probability of succeeding as we do of failing. It's 50-50. And really, if our desire is there, then the probability of succeeding goes up, right? Because the desire is there and the work is there. The probability of failing goes up when we don't do anything, when we don't do the energetic work, when we just wallow in our self-doubt, right? So we're feeding either or, but really reality is neutral. It's all what we give meaning. I think that when these things come up, when self-doubt comes up, first and foremost, it is a gift, because that gift, those thoughts are showing you what's still existing in your subconscious mind and coming to the surface as your shadows from your shadow realm. And that's important because 90 to 95% of what we see in our outer world comes directly from the subconscious mind and has nothing to do with the intellectual and conscious mind. Absolutely nothing to do with it. And so when these self-doubts come up, it's your deep self telling you, Jessica, this is what's on your subconscious mind. If you don't reprogram, if you don't do the energetic work, you will manifest this. So these thoughts coming through, it's a reminder, come back to your center, come back to your belief systems, come back to your rituals. You know what's true. You know that you are the creator of your reality. You work hand in hand with God to create whatever is happening in your outer reality, in your outer world. It's all up to you. So even those negative thoughts, even those doubts are gifts. Even those are gifts. Now, there's something that happened to me recently I want to share with you. It happened this morning. It's absolutely insane. So, I'm writing a book. In this book, I'm introducing the concept that I've mentioned in this podcast already, the deep self. And the deep self is our higher self. Okay? It's that thing that guides us, that's connected to God, to the divine. It's that thing that we feel when we're in flow, or when we're intentionally relaxed, or when we're having a conversation like this, it kind of takes over, right? It's kind of talking for us when we're in flow, when we're meditating, in many aspects of our lives, especially when we are relaxed, it takes over. So I'm writing, I'm almost done writing, and this whole book has been such an awakening and an expansive experience for me, because there was so much fear that came up, and instead of holding on to the resistance, it's been a year-long process, but every day I faced and showed up and battled my demons around being a writer and an author and around this book. Finally, I'm getting to a place where something is being birthed from me, right? But a few days ago, I had a doubt about the entire concept of my book. And I was like, holy shit, am I creating a middleman between humankind and God? Am I putting something in between, kind of like the church does or temples do? Because that's not what I mean to do at all. And I'm worried that this whole book is kind of making people think that that they're not already connected to the divine, and that's not what I mean at all. And I sat there and I was like, oh my God, I really need to find a way to convey that we are the deep self. We're not separate from the deep self. We are this deep self. So I'm sitting there with my doubts and my fears. I'm like, okay, I have to finish this book because this is what feels alive inside of me, and I have to make this happen. And I did a little prayer and I said, God, and some people might be more comfortable saying universe. It's whatever people are comfortable with. Creator, source, all that is. Higher self, same thing. I need validation. I need confirmation. I need to know that I'm in service of the divine right now and that I'm not putting out distorted information. Okay, I put that aside. The next day, I do energy readings on YouTube. And part of my process of doing energy readings is I'll grab like a card or oracle deck or something. I'll shuffle through them and I'll see if something comes up and resonates with me for the energy of that time. And as I'm shuffling and I wanted to get 4 cards out, I had a card fall out. And this card fell out and I just knew that this isn't for the reading. So I put it aside. I was like, that's for me for later. And then I finished the energy reading and I was like, okay, I think that I'm supposed to read this card before I sit down to do my writing. And so later that day, I sit down, I set up my writing rituals, I light my candle, I have my green tea, have a whole ritual around it. I was like, okay, let's get to this card. So I take the card and the card is the deck is the Rumi Oracle by Alana Fairchild. I love this deck. It's beautiful. I don't usually buy Oracle decks or anything like that. I'm usually gifted them by people and then I'll randomly use them. But this one, I was in the secondhand bookstore here in Sedona and on my way out, I saw it. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to grab this. And I took it. Okay. So, of course, that's the deep self guiding me, right? So this card comes out. It's called Sacred Soul Sister. So at first, I'm not picking up anything. Like, okay, Sacred Soul Sister. I don't think that has anything to do with my writing, but I'm going to read what the guidebook says about it because maybe it'll inspire some of my writing today. So I open the book to the page, and the first thing that I read shocks me to the core so deeply. It just breaks apart all of reality and reminds me we are so much more than this physical existence. The deep self is our higher aspect. It exists. It's a part of God. I'm meant to write this book. This entire section, Jessica, was about the deep self. The words used in these 3 pages are the titles of sections of my already written book. I have never seen anything like this. I have a lot of research material for my book. Nothing as precise as this. I got down on my knees and started crying because thank you that I asked for a sign, I asked for validation, and it dropped out. And I want to read to you the quote that started. It got crazier and crazier as I read. But the first quote that I read, I'm like, oh, this is the quote I'll open my book with. This is the first page of my book. And it just happened perfectly. So this is what it says. I love you. I am your other self. I am with you always, your partner on this soul journey. I am the you that you do not see. I am the you that speaks through intuition and instinct. I whisper and sing and shout my crazed truth-telling to you through your dreams, through your body. I am the you that is wise, that trusts in life, that knows. I am the you that sees reality rather than appearance. I am the you that knows how to be happy and free. That's the deep self, Jess. That is the book. That's the book.
That is so crazy. I've never seen such a precise sign given from God. Like how?
I was crying for an hour, crying. So I'm turning my air. It's really hot in here because I'm excited. It was so to the point. And my whole book, the whole point of this, why I wanted to bring this up and the book, why I'm writing the book, is because I want people to learn to listen to that and to know that everything is perfect. Even those self-sabotaging thoughts are perfect. They're all happening for us to form us, to create us into exactly who we're supposed to be, what we're asking for. We have to go through it. Then we're formed and we're ready and we're more open and wider to receiving what we wanted on the other side.
Yes, it's so beautiful. It's like shifting what you said as well, being shifting your perception, right? It's like not making anything bad. And there is actually nothing bad. It's just energy. And this energy
Mm-hmm.
is there to guide you. So I'm gonna take that with me throughout this time
Good.
and really just allow myself to be in it and see where this is guiding me instead of making it a bad thing and trying to push it away and be like, no, I'm not meant to feel this. I know that, like,
Yeah.
also I feel like sometimes when we're so deeply in like the manifestation work and his law of attraction is like, you know that every single thought is manifesting and you're like, oh my god, no, I can't go there even, you know. And I
No,
feel like
no, no.
sometimes you might feel like every single thought and feeling, this is bad that I'm feeling this because I don't want to manifest it. Because at the end of the day, you're manifesting all the time, intentionally or unintentionally, right? So I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes it can get this very like, is this
This
bad
fear
that
of
I'm
holding
feeling?
that thought. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
If I can just comfort you a little bit in that, I think that most mainstream manifestation teaches us that every thought that we have manifests into reality, because it's kind of easier to tell people to think more positively when we, but it's not necessarily true, because thought forms exist in our mind, and the ones that are most nourished are the ones that come into physicality. So let's say you hold one thought of how you're not worthy of something, and you're thinking about it all the time, and you're feeding it with energy. Then over time, yes, reality can rearrange and that thought can come into. But if you have a fleeting thought and you right away create an opposing thought form, like I am worthy, I actually am worthy. Positive energy is stronger than negative energy. That opposing thought immediately undoes the other one. And then you continue to nourish that every day. I am worthy. I am deserving. And that's how affirmations work. They're being fed and nourished, while the other thought is just being starved. And so we don't have to be afraid of our thoughts, and just look at them as gifts, and look at it as part of your journey, turning you and molding you into who you ultimately are asking to become.
Because at the end of the day, it's like a lot of like teachers about manifestation and law of attraction, like Neville Goddard, for example, always speaks about like being the person first before you see that in the 3D world. I would love to know your way of living it and your way of how things manifested for you by being, and also probably explaining what that means, because some people might be listening to this are like, what the hell does it mean? I don't even understand. Like, how can I be when I don't have that
Yeah,
material thing?
totally.
How do you do that, and what does it mean for you?
I think a good story for this is when I first started YouTube. I remember my videos weren't doing so well. I was having a lot of fun, but they weren't getting a lot of views. I wasn't getting a lot of subscribers for the first 6 months or so. And I realized at some point that when somebody asked me what I would do, what I was still telling them is I would say I'm an entertainment news reporter. Okay? So I wasn't embodying what I wanted to become until March 2017, when I realized that and I shifted and I decided, now from now on, when somebody asks me what I do, I'm a YouTuber. At that point, that's what I wanted to be, right? I'm a YouTuber. And so I started saying that to everybody. I do YouTube. That month, a video went viral and I got 50,000 subscribers in 1 month, which is a lot, right? Yeah. And it's just like, that is stepping into the reality and saying and affirming you are what you would like to be before your reality actually looks that way. So the way that Neville Goddard would explain it is like, one of the things that he stresses, and that was always how I manifested since I was a little girl, before even knowing that this was a technique, is before bed, falling asleep and visualizing yourself as if your life is already exactly the way that you want it to be. And that's a very powerful time to visualize, because we're in a liminal state of in between. We're in between reality and other states of reality. And so we're basically accessing this quantum realm in which everything already exists. And the mind can't tell between reality and fiction. And so whatever we hold in our mind starts to rearrange and becomes the movie that we project out into the blank screen of reality. Okay? So being as if is about acting the way that you would act if you already had what you want to have, right? So if you want to have millions in the bank, you must be magnanimous, you must be generous, you must be very easygoing about money, because you have this infinite supply that's just going to continue to come. You can't penny pinch, right? Because you have who has time to keep track of pennies when you're a millionaire, right? If you want to be in a relationship, then you treat yourself and act in a certain way as if you would in that relationship. So this is what I teach in my Manifesting Love course, and that's basically to not only call in your perfect soulmate, but to bring the awareness to yourself and see, how would I like to show up in a relationship, and begin to show up in your life in that way. So for me, when I was calling in my relationship, I wanted somebody who's spontaneous and adventurous. But I looked at my own life and I was staying home every day and doing the same things. Can't do that. You have to start living as if. So I started to take little day trips and doing random things, taking random classes, being spontaneous. And I ended up manifesting a man who will on the, book us something for the next hour, a hot air balloon ride or off-roading or something crazy. And that's how I called it in, by already embodying those things.
I love to talk about visualization because I also
Yeah.
always say that to my clients. I'm like, you need to visualize first to know that
Mm-hmm.
you can get there and you can, create that life that you desire. So I always tell them to visualize their life that they want and the health that they want to desire, right? Because of course, if they can't hold even that image of their dream life, it's going to be hard for them to actually achieve the goals that they have, right? I know for myself when I was a child, like I did it how you said, automatically. I was every single day, like, because I feel like also when you're a
Visualizing.
child, you're just curious. You like you haven't experienced so much life yet. You haven't experienced so much like hardship yet, right? So like you're a lot more creative, and you had your beliefs
Totally.
very like right stable and like surprisingly, I manifested a lot of the things that me as a child I was just like visualizing randomly, like daydreaming and at night and stuff. But I also feel like the older you get, the more the harder it gets because you're like, no, this is just I'm not. You don't have the curiosity of a child anymore. And I feel like you want to say something. You're like excited about it
I
now.
have a whole section in my book about that. A whole section
God.
exactly about that. Exactly what you're saying, that in childhood it's so much easier than it is in adulthood. Exactly.
Another sign right there, girl. That's
So much
what
confirmation, babe. So much confirmation.
I love that. Amazing. I love
But
that.
that's exactly it. Yeah, you have less programming when you're that young, and you believe more, and your imagination is a portal to other worlds, and so we manifest that way. And the last thing I wanted to add about being as if is the emotion is the most important. So cultivating an emotion, thinking how through meditation and visualization, how will I feel once I have that, once I achieve that, once that exists, and soaking in that emotion. And so I did that a lot with visualizing my book. How will it feel once I'm a published author, and just soaking in that. And that's how I'm manifesting that.
I love this so much. Now, I know we're slowly getting to the end. I would love to talk to you for like another 3 hours about this.
I know.
But
I
so,
really enjoy a conversation with you, for real.
oh, thank you so much. I feel like, yeah, vice versa. It's like the same. And I just feel like when two people are so passionate about something,
Yeah.
it could go forever. And it doesn't happen that often, surprisingly. That's like those soul
Right.
conversations for me are like, they nourish me for like forever, you know? And I rather
Totally
have
same.
like, right, I'd rather have like one soul deep conversation like this than like 10 small talk conversations. They
Small
like,
talk.
they deplete me so
Totally.
much. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's so true. How interesting is energy in that way? That you can talk for an hour with somebody nonstop and be energized from it, or you can have some small talk for a couple minutes and just be drained from it. That's crazy.
Yes, yes. I had to like, I realized I was already like this as a child, especially like when I was around some family members. I remember as a child coming home feeling extremely drained. And I just didn't understand why. And the older I got, the more aware I was of the conversations that they were having. And it was like super like complaining, a lot of talking about people, a lot of like this extremely like low, vibration. I was like,
Yeah.
hell no, I'm like getting out of there. So it's crazy. It's crazy what energy can do. I want to know because I know you already manifested your dream career. I know you manifested, I guess, your soulmate. You manifested some really amazing things into your life. What other one or two things have you manifested that maybe didn't happen from one day to another, but something that you were holding for so long and that showed up in your life?
I think actually the soulmate story is not one that I've shared, and I think that's a really good one because that one came with struggles. It's one of the most apparent physicalizations of God energy in my life, in which I was struggling back in a year ago, in last September. I was going through a really difficult time. My ex, that a lot of people know, I had intuitive knowings that he's started a new relationship and that he was really happy, which made me happy for him. But I was in a really bad place back then, regardless of him in that situation, I have dealt with clinical depression my entire life and ideations of suicide. And so I know that if I'm capable of making spirituality my life and saving myself through that, then anybody is. I'm positive. And back in September, it's an up and down process. I was having ideations again, and I was in a dark place, and I was overweight, and I was unhappy, and I was not doing well. I really wasn't. And I decided back then, after getting out of another relationship it was close, but it wasn't it. I decided back then, I'm not gonna settle. I'm not gonna get married like the Jewish Israeli community that I'm in expects. Everybody around me was getting married, getting engaged, having children. I'm not going to do that just because society wants me to, unless I fall head over heels in love. My goal is to discover whether true love exists, whether the Hollywood perception of love, which by the way, it ended up not being Hollywood necessarily. I think it's even better. It's even better, but it's a lot more real, right? Unless I get that, unless I have this man that's like, I know he's my soulmate. Because with all my exes, there were so many almost, right? It almost hit. But there was never a feeling of, I know I want to be with this person. I know this is my soulmate. I know this, I'm supposed to be with him for the rest of my life. So I set my intention that it has to be a for sure, or it's nothing at all. I'll be alone for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. And so I went on this journey of self-love, and I started to lose the weight and eat healthier and move around more. And I started to spend more time around the people who uplifted me. And I started to prioritize my emotions more. And I started to be more real and more vulnerable with my emotions. I came out with a few videos in the past year that were very, very emotional, very vulnerable. I really put myself out there. And that only helped me out with my own process, right? And I started to manifest. I started to write letters. I wrote letters to my soulmate as if he was already in my life. I wrote a script. So when I do my videos, I write scripts. I tend to get a little bit of brain fog if I'm not in flow, and I'll forget what I'm talking about. So I write out scripts. So I wrote a script as a manifestation method, talking about manifesting my love, telling everybody, telling my viewers, here's how I did it. So that was a manifestation technique, right? I wrote letters from my future self to my past self. I wrote a lot, and I visualized a lot. I woke up in early morning, and I set aside 30 minutes a day to visualize. This wasn't consistent. This wasn't for months, right? But here and there I would do it. And those days were so beautiful, where I would wake up 30 minutes early. I'd sit at the foot of my bed, and I'd imagine what it feels like to finally be reunited with my soulmate. I had a hard time because nothing was showing up, and then somebody showed up that I thought might be, and then it ended up not being. But through the men that did show up in my life that were almost, I knew that they were almost like a test. Like, are you going to settle? You said you're not going to settle. Are you going to settle now? You've worked so hard on manifesting. Are you going to settle for the almost? And the fact that I was able to cut it off really quick, really cleanly, with peace and with love, say this isn't what I'm looking for, it showed my growth. It showed that I was ready. And back in March, somebody kept popping up in my head. And now whenever I've manifested love in the past, the man has always pursued me. So I always thought it would end up that way, right? But suddenly something's shifting, and I can't stop thinking about this specific man. And so I reach out to him. And I reach out to him just as wanting to be friends. But he's getting over a breakup, and he's such a good person that he's like, I don't want to disrespect you. I don't want to disrespect my ex. It's too soon. We can't meet. We can't be friends right now. It's like, okay, fine. A month later, again, I reach out to him. I don't do this, okay? But something inside of me was like, you need to like connect with him. I reached out again. He's like, I'm still not ready, but I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to meet when I'm fully healed. A month later, we reconnected, and suddenly he was like, he's ready. He's done the work. He's healed himself, and he knows I found out, had been in love with me for years and had always wanted it to work between us. He said once it didn't work out between us a couple years earlier, he thought to himself, okay, I guess I'm not going to be with my soulmate in this lifetime. I will settle for somebody else. It didn't work with that somebody else, and his soulmate, which is me, came back for him, which is something that I never do, right? He ended up being everything that I wrote down in my letters. to the T, to the point of where he wanted to work his morals, his ethics. I wrote in my notebooks, Jess. I wrote I'm so happy about your relationship with my mom. My mom is kind of an antisocial person. It's kind of hard to like right away get along with her. My boyfriend goes and has coffee with her by himself. He calls her all the time, and he didn't know any of this. It's exactly what I called in, exactly. And I had to do a lot of inner work to get there. I had to continuously hold the faith, continuously believe. And there were it was, 7, 8 month process. And there were moments where I was like, oh, like maybe I'm just gonna be a nun. Maybe I'm just not gonna be with anybody. Maybe my role in this lifetime is to just guide the ascension of mankind and not necessarily have my own family. But I continued to hold the faith, and I was like, no, if God wants this for me, what I want for myself, it'll happen. And I can say that it 100% happened. I know for the first time in my life, I know this is the person I'm going to be with. I love him more than anything. We've been together for lifetimes. And like that was a really powerful manifestation for me because it was such on a pedestal, and I had to bring it down, and I had to become comfortable with it being in my life. And here it is. And here we are.
I love one thing that stood out to me is
Yeah,
that you still doubt it sometimes, and that it's a very natural, normal process.
totally.
But you didn't lose the faith. You kept doing the work. You showed up for yourself. You wrote that letter. You did the visualization, and there was your, how did you call it? Higher, not higher self, higher,
My deep self.
your deep self
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like giving you in a way like guidance of like, no, you have to write this person again and again and again, right, until
Exactly.
like it clicked. And I love the story so much because I also feel like at least the content that I've been consuming so much about like manifestation, law of attraction has been a lot of like around money and like all of that stuff, which I think most people want to manifest, which there's nothing wrong, but we also forget like the non-material things are what makes up life and what makes us ultimately
Totally.
happy, right? And
Totally.
with that, when you have, your love and you have a soulmate by your side, I feel like everything else, like this is like the biggest confirmation that this stuff works, even when
I
there's
believe I believe that love is the key to all doorways. I think that's a quote by somebody. And that doesn't necessarily have to be romantic love, right? Loving ourselves, loving our family, our friends, our pets. Love opens all doorways. Financial prosperity, creative, all doorways open up when we feel love.
Yes, 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 yes. And quick story also that I realized about myself is because everything is frequency, right? Just how love is. And I for so long I also was very closed up. When I met my boyfriend, he was like already knew in his mind that like he was gonna marry me. And I was like super, not taken off, but like I just didn't believe that I could have a soulmate because I had so much hardship also before. And then I was struggling not only in my love life, but with my money, with my business, with all of these things. And I was like, maybe it's all connected. What if I actually opened myself up to love? And I did, and everything else started to flow into my life. I was
Oof,
like,
chills.
same girl. I was like, holy shit. Like, so actually, if I like allow love into my life, everything else gonna start to flow in. Like, and because it's energy, it's the same thing, right? And so
All
yeah,
the
I want
same.
to share this story
Totally.
with you
Totally.
because I feel
I
like it's
love that. I love that. I love that. That's so, and it's all about also that feeling of worthiness. And if we can feel worthy of that relationship, that, right,
yes,
then we feel worthy of everything else in our lives. That's
yeah.
beautiful, Jess. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and I could definitely say it's been the best relationship I've been in, and just how you say, like, I know this is it,
You
and
know,
I know
exactly.
it's like it's just I know, like I don't have to even like question it at all anymore, and I never
Right.
had that, and just like you, I had these doubts too, where I'm like, is that even for me? Like, is that even possible, right? I would love to talk to you forever. And I still have one question that I'm probably going to ask you personally. But I would love for
Totally.
you to tell us, what can we expect from you? Because I know you always come up with really cool creative content. Is there anything new in the works? I know you mentioned that book. When is that supposed to come out? Because I'm curious.
So the book is what I'm obsessed with right now. I'm in love with writing now, so it's like my everything. My goal is to have it up by the holidays this year, which is going to be really exciting. It's going to happen actually. Like I see it happening.
Yes,
It's almost done. I just need to get it edited. I need to get the cover art and then we're up and we're going. And I realize that like hopefully people love it, but if they don't, I needed to birth this thing for myself. I needed to go through this journey myself, and I'd be so happy. I'll send you a copy. I'd be so happy to see what people feel about it, but like even if no one likes it, it's my baby and I'm very excited that it
people,
exists.
the right people are
We'll
gonna
find
be,
it.
oh yes, they're gonna be like, this was exactly what I needed. I truly believe it. Like,
Yes.
there's no coincidence, and I know that people are gonna be like, this saved my life. I'm so sure about it. I can't wait
Oh,
to read it. I'm so excited for you.
there's a delivery guy. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much
my
as
love.
well. It was so wonderful. I
So
can't wait
good.
for it to be up. I can't wait for the world to hear this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. He was quiet the whole
I,
time. Thank you,
I will
Jupiter.
I will put all of your information in the show notes to the listeners. Please check
Thank
his
you for having me.
thing out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, love. Bye bye.
Thank you.
That was it. I hope you had a blast, just how I did. I could have talked to this beautiful woman forever, but yeah, it needs to end at some point. Make sure to, if you haven't yet, check her out on YouTube. I will link everything in the show notes. And of course, feel free to follow this channel. Feel free to follow the podcast, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.